about intellectual property one-on-one. Again, I am not a lawyer. I cannot emphasize that more. No law degree on my shelf. Got a few degrees, no law degrees, right? But I've been around quite a bit. Done 27 books. This is actually my 27th book. Done numerous partnerships, partnered with lots of organizations from TED to the New York Post to other folks, working behind the scenes, sometimes working up front. And I've co-founded two companies, founded one company and co-founded another one. My second company, Cuddler, ended up getting acquired about a year after me and my partners launched it. So I know what it's like to be in the trenches and to try to figure out what exactly you need to protect as far as your part of the pie or the entire pie if you created it yourself. I talk a little bit more about this in my newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter, Wednesdays at joindamon.me. It's about fighting over crumbs. Listen, we can fight over a lot of things. That's fine. And I don't mind. I don't mind a good fight, being part of a good fight or us fighting to make things more equitable. But if we don't own anything, what are we fighting for? Why are you fighting over the thing that you're renting? Why are you fighting the next guy? Because they have a little bit more than you. And then the system itself is keeping all of us from being equitable. Why are you fighting over stuff that's not going to matter, frankly, when you die, when we wrap it up? Choose your fight wisely. I talk about that in the newsletter. And I think there's a lot of insight that we can get from that discussion. When we're talking about intellectual property, it has to do with who owns the execution of the idea. So let's start at the start. What exactly is intellectual property? Intellectual property is not the idea, but the execution of the idea. If you have an idea to have a flying car, dope. I don't know if we need flying cars. I'm based here in Las Vegas. People, I used to live in Los Angeles, so not people don't drive as nutty as Los Angeles, but they're on the edge here for sure. Maybe someone just lost somebody at the casino and they're driving out of town. So I don't know if we need flying cars. But let's say you have an idea for a flying car. Dope. Sounds good in concept. Sounds good in theory. That's all it is an idea and a theory. So in other words, me saying, I want a flying car, I have an idea for it, and it's going to have 5 wheels, and the exhaust is going to be in the front instead of the back. I can't sue you if you create that right now. There's no intellectual property to that. However, if I draw some schematics, fancy word for a blueprint, if I draw some schematics and I'm drawing how it's going to be set up, or I create a prototype, an example, a concept, I create it through 3D modeling, or I have 2 little kids, so I take some of their Play-Doh and I make something out of it. Then we're starting to get into intellectual property territory. It's not your idea, it's the concept. As I talk about in the video, and it's in the recent video that I did, it's in the comments. I just talked about it, about the 3 power moves that artists can make. I compare it to making music. Excuse me, both of my kids are into music, and I love music myself, used to be a DJ. And so you could have a melody in your head. Okay, that's not intellectual property. Intellectual property is when you commit that to like some type of sound that other people can hear, or you write it down in some sheet music. Then it starts to translate into something else. That's what you can protect. You can't protect your ideas. Probably because we can't really, unless you're a mind reader, we can't really trace what ideas are. So intellectual property is the execution or concept of an idea. It is not the idea itself. So when you talk to a lawyer or other folks who are protecting your intellectual property, it's not the idea. It can't be the idea, because often those ideas or those things can't be proven. When it comes to intellectual property, whoever controls the intellectual property actually controls how it's executed. And we're going to get into this episode. So if I control the intellectual property, this book, which I do, then I can control how it's executed into the world, what's done with it, and so forth. We're going to go a lot deeper into that, but that's why intellectual property, get the word out of my mouth, that's why intellectual property is power. So again, I can't emphasize this more because I get asked this a lot. I coach a lot of folks. That's an ongoing discussion. You cannot have intellectual property or IP, we'll just call it IP from now on, IP around an idea. You just can't, because it's not enforceable. Because you can't be like, oh, I came up with that idea. Well, if you didn't do anything with it, if you don't create proof of it. If I'm going back in the day, which I don't know if it's still valid, but I know back in the day, if you were sending a book idea, more like a proposal, to a particular publisher, or if you had a story idea and you're sending it and you're really concerned about it, then you would actually send, you would actually write down the idea on paper or what have you, or type it, going back in the day, and you would mail it to yourself. Because when you mail it to yourself, then that's kind of like a poor man's version of a ratification. You know, when you get something stamped, if you've ever bought a home, if you've gotten married before, something that requires a ratification where you need to have someone there that stamps it and gives a date, that's kind of like a poor man's version of doing that. Please don't do that, but that's how we used to do it back in the day. You do that because it puts a timeline on it, because it becomes verifiable. So again, to reiterate, just one last time, intellectual property is not your idea. Intellectual property is the proposed execution of your idea. The proposed execution of your idea. It's the music on paper where someone can play it. It is the model or the proof of concept of what you're going to do. Your idea or your execution of your idea doesn't have to be complete, but it does need to be created enough so that someone can execute it. That's where intellectual property comes into play. If you're talking about intellectual property, again, I am not a lawyer, I keep saying it, but it's important to know. you gotta get them involved. Shout out to all my lawyers out there. I know not all of y'all are great, but the ones that I know that are friends of mine are fantastic. So I appreciate what y'all do and how you protect us as artists and creators. LegalZoom is a great place to go. It's probably the most popular platform as far as getting legal guidance. I've actually worked with them, so I'm not just talking. No, for real. The LegalZoom people know me well, as well as do traditional lawyers. You know who you are. You saved my hide quite a few times, so I appreciate y'all. LegalZoom, though, is a great place to start. They will actually connect you with the insights that you need, whether it's starting an LLC or a DBA, getting the trademark protection or the copyright protection, which are two different things, being able to define those things that you particularly need. LegalZoom is a great place to start. Shout out to them. Tell them I sent you for sure. And episode that just ran, it's actually, is that the right number? Yeah, it is the right number. 418. I also have some issues with my episode numbers this week. I don't know what was going on, but I think it is episode 418 for sure. Actually, it might be 418. See, the numbers are off. 3 power moves any artist can make. Episode just premiered last Sunday. I was so proud of the work that I was able to get out as far as with sharing the 3 tenets that will help you with intellectual property, as well as some fun outside clips that give you practical ways that intellectual property makes sense. It's only 5 minutes long. And again, be sure and check out the video. Share it with your brothers and sisters in your community. We need help because we think that we execute or do something and then automatically we're protected. And we might start with intellectual property, but frankly, we don't always end up with it. Do a quick search on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform and search up people losing their intellectual property or losing their masters when it comes to the music business, or something being executed and then suddenly lose their rights to it. Whew. One of the reasons why I do the work that I do. I've done everything but be a lawyer. And so this is a great place to start with that. And of course, LegalZoom can help you on your journey. Are you dealing with intellectual property issues? Have you worked with intellectual property, or do you still have questions as far as what intellectual property is? Go and Jeff in the comments. I will, as well as the rest of the community, will give as much insight as possible. And again, don't be afraid to reach out and get some legal advice. Man, I've paid a lawyer a few $100s, and they literally saved me tens of thousands of dollars. No exaggeration at all. Multiple times, multiple times. So listen, don't be afraid to get that legal advice. But jump in the comments if you had any broader or general questions about intellectual property, what it is, and how it matters to you. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown. Man, I am tongue-tied today. I'm here to support you as a side hustler, a solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worth show and Bring Your Worth.tv. Wednesdays live at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You can subscribe for free. I'm realizing why I'm starting to stutter is that I think it's starting to get hot. This weather has been so weird. I got to tell you, in Las Vegas, it's supposed to be rainy for the rest of the week, and then today it's hot and humid. It's not usually humid. As they say, it's true, though. It's a dry heat here. Go figure. And it's wet here. I'm starting to sweat like New Orleans without the food. Used to let me get a po' boy. The complete Bring Your Worth collection out now. Get it wherever fine books are sold, as well as at damonbrown.net, where you can get the Bring Your Worth mug and other things of that nature. So as I was asking, do you guys have any questions about intellectual property and what it is and what is it? I'm happy to go ahead and help out as much as possible.